about getting the news about getting Dracula. And I suppose I wanted to find out what happened when that decision, that sort of like moment comes. Do you go, what on earth am I going to do? How am I going to do it? Or does a huge surge of excitement about going, right, I can take one of the big iconic characters and pieces of some story and make it my own?
I think the first part. Is that one?
No. Right.
Oh.
Try that one.
Hello. I think the first part of that very long question is what did I do first? I went to a bar. I went with Johnny and Michelle and Kira and Glenn and Shar and Jason. My mates are all actually over in LA, all from Dublin. And we went to a place down in Santa Monica and we got hammered. And then I kind of thought about it the next day, not about us getting hammered, but actually getting the job and thinking about the responsibility. But the first thing is that when you get hired, there's 100 other films in development in the studio, so it becomes like Dragon's Den of movie making. So you have to go through the green light committee, and it's another year and a half of like proving to them why they need to make this film and why it's so important now, and just why you're the right person for the job. So it's a big long process just after the job.
And the initial script was always going to be origin. It was going back to the beginning. It was going from the story of Vlad to Dracula. So, yeah. And that was there from the very start. And was Luke and Sarah involved at that stage, or was that later in the process?
No, that was later. That was later as the green lighting process starts, because it's a soft green light that you get. They're never going to say, right, there you go, take the money, go off, make a film, and come back to us, a year later. They just, it's just little incremental steps, and to give you a chance. So part of it is in the casting, and a huge part of it is in the casting. So I went to. Luke was the first on the list, he was the only on the list, and he was the last on the list. Sarah, I had to work a little harder on. I had to convince her.
Well, I want to talk to Luke in a minute, but tell us about the set, because I'm intrigued. You weren't completely enthused by the idea of a Dracula story. Is that a polite way of saying it?
No. Is it working?
It is. Speak into it.
No, I met with Gary about the project at a place in LA, and we were having lunch, and he was kind of, telling me about the film and showing me his visuals, and then we kind of looked beside us, and Francis Ford Coppola was having lunch beside us, and then I was like, oh my God, it's a sign! We should be here right now! And then I started really taking it seriously.
The Coppola version is probably the one that's probably in a way the most familiar in a sense. But this went back in a very, very specific way. I mean, it really talked. I mean, it's much more the sort of Vlad the Impaler story. I mean, if you go to Romania, I was in Bran in the castle, for instance. I mean, he's a huge mythical, or he's a huge hero. There's a huge side to him that's kind of been, in a way, maneuvered into the Dracula myth. I mean, I know, Luke, you did a lot of research, didn't you, about Vlad and going back into the sort of the history side of it and researching.
Hello. Yes, hello everybody. Thanks for staying. Yeah, I mean, that's the gift of playing a role that is based, sort of semi-based on history. And Vlad Tepes, or Vlad the Impaler, as most people know him, there's a lot written about him. A lot of contrasting stories and lots of different opinions on who he is and what he did and how bad he was and how good he was. So, no, there was a lot of documentaries, one brilliantly narrated by Christopher Lee, which I thought was brilliant. I thought it was quite poetic. But no, it was fun to do my research and then sort of just glean the bits I wanted to absorb into Vlad and his story and make him real and make people sort of like him. I guess I want people to sort of understand his journey and sort of, even if you don't agree with what he says or what he does, you sort of get why he does it. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that this was probably your sort of first starring role. I mean, the big lead role.
How dare you?
Why sorry? I mean, you are the title character.
Sorry, I get it.
So, I'm very curious, because from what I've read, the sort of relationship between yourself and Gary was really important in the sort of the sort of months leading up to it, and in his first film.
Completely, yeah. I'm going to stop you there because you can answer my question otherwise. No, you're right. I mean, for me, it was a very big moment. I just finished doing Fast and the Furious 6, and it was with Universal Pictures, and it was a really big deal for me. It was also a contemporary bad guy and all that stuff. And then they wanted to find something else, and I was like, exciting, great. And then they presented this script, which was called Dracula Year Zero at the time. And I said, well, I'm not sure about the title, but the story sounds fun. Let's have a read of it. And then they said, well, you should meet Gary Shaw. And to be honest with you, the second that Skype screen popped up, and I saw this very charming Irish face, I was like, okay, I think we're going to get on. And we did. We're both Celts, you know. I'm Welsh, he's Irish, and we have the same, very similar sense of humour. We got each other, and we both were in, I felt like we were both in the same place, you know. It was Gary's first feature film, it was my first title role, a huge responsibility for both of us, and we were like, we can do this, and we can enjoy this, and we can work together, and we can produce the best thing we've done in our lives. And that's what we did, and it was a very rewarding experience, and I'm glad that he was the one that was there for me, definitely.
Law, I think it was, you'd call it love at first bite.
One of the things I think is really interesting about the film is for a subject and a character that has been nearly now turned into a sort of pastiche, that has nearly become beyond parody. It's amazing how straight you actually played it. And I'm just thinking about not only your approach, Gary, which, I mean, that film moves like an express train. I mean, I don't know what anyone else thinks, but that's 90 minutes of like adrenaline from start to finish. You don't get time to smirk or make jokes. It's full on sort of like action. But it's something I read about, something that Sarah said, which was about the character of Marina being a moral compass. That there's actually really interesting sort of emotion, actually, and real emotion between the father and his son, and the relationship between the two of you, and something that you nearly, in a way, don't expect from this type of genre film. I mean, I think that it was that the thing that approached, or that attracted, maybe, you to it.
If we can just say this one, I think, unfortunately, audience expectations have been really lowered over the years, just because the told films of this scale don't have, it shouldn't have emotions, but it just felt like we had a great opportunity to be able to explore this like family dynamic. And if I had been able to explore it more, I would have. It was just a story called for this forward movement to get to that, and to get all of these events conspiring on Vlad, to force him to drink blood. I mean, that was that big aha moment everybody was waiting for. But,
I mean, it was definitely what drew me to the character, was the fact that you were following the human. You were following a man who was dealing with, emotions that we all deal with in our lives. There was this immense love he has for his family, this responsibility to his people, and then you're dealing with also historically this tiny country called Wallachia, which is what he was prince of. He stopped the Ottoman invasion in his time, and this Ottoman invasion was sweeping through Europe, and nothing was stopping it, and he stopped it. And it's things like that, you're bringing all those bits of information into this character and making him real, but the relationship between Vlad and Marina and Ingris, young Art Parkinson, who's now like twice the height. He was very easy to, well, you were very easy to fall in love with, and he was very easy to love as a son. I mean, we felt that this family unit was grounded and solid, and we just had to make sure the audience, that we had to make sure you were with us from that point, so that when Vlad does what he does, you sort of think, well, you know, he's doing it for right reasons.
Diarmaid, can I bring you in about the fact that there's also some fantastic battle scenes in this, and they're really out there. I mean, did you guys train, or did you just naturally walk on set and manage to just do that, you know, 2 or 3 takes?
I just turned up and it just came naturally. It just, yeah, just how I do. No, we did. There was a kind of extensive sort of lead-in period of basically physical training and stunt training.
Well, tell us, because everyone thinks being an actor is fun.
But that extensive period, I didn't do it, Luke did it. There was, we had great kind of direction from Gary, of course, very clear in his vision of what he wanted in terms of action and the narrative that action would be telling throughout the movie. And it was executed brilliantly, kind of leading the front line by Luke. And then in later sequences then when the Janissaries attack, that's just all out kind of melee from all kind of areas and cast of the movie. So it was, as you say, it was an adrenaline rush. It was like a freight train, and once you're in the middle of those battles, it kind of felt like that. And it was, but that was just the pace of the movie, and that was how we shot. And it was, you know, each day was kind of ramping up the stakes on the last.
I'm sure most people know, but I probably just should point it out that it was shot in Northern Ireland.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was hoping we'd probably, when we got to the Q&A, I knew someone would mention that. But do you want to just name check some of the places?
Tullymore Forest,
That's right.
Dillis Mountain, the Giant's Causeway.
Beautiful.
And there was an environmental disposal factory that we shooting next door to. We
That's stunning
kind
in October, really beautiful.
yeah. That Luke had to, and Sarah and Diarmaid had to do a lot of ADR for.
Very annoying.
It was eclectic.
We had the Britvic
And
factory.
Britvic
the
factory is
Britvic
in
factory, yeah. And I mean, they're big spaces, and we filled them. There was one, the big fight sequence between Vlad and it's called Vlad versus 1,000, and it's, you know, when he kills all those Turks in one go. That was just we filled the whole studio with dirt, just a whole studio full of dirt, and then all the screens around were like this, but in blue, I think, weren't they? Blue screens, yeah. And yeah, we worked on that. But you know, we utilised every space there was free that Game of Thrones hadn't stolen.
I'm going to about Game of Thrones in a minute, but I'm going to throw it out to the audience if there's a question. Okay, there's one here.
Shout it out.
Shout it out.
Yeah. First of all, I love the film and congratulations to everybody involved in it. I really like the way you portrayed the vampires. You made it quite what you'd expect it to be, like less cartoony than a lot of other films would do. Would you ever consider taking it to the Bram Stoker story of Dracula, as previous ones?
I mean, the way I look at the story here is the first act, and that's not to say that, you know, of any grand plans for sequels or anything.
We're going to talk about it. Hold on, guys.
I see it as an act one of the act structure, and what was really great about this is like we weren't beholden to any kind of rules or visual storytelling. We could create that DNA ourselves. And we put a lot of time into trying to find what this source of vampirism was within nature, and we, you know, this kind of mutation in the bones and the skin and all this stuff that we even the way they drank blood, and it was like almost like, you know, a drug going to their eyes and into their brain. We put a lot of time and visual development into to try and do it. But what I would love to see then in that second sequence is like, you know, our, you know, it's that second dark story. You know, what is that evolution of Anakin Skywalker into Darth Vader? You know, what is Caesar becoming? Will Caesar become the badass Caesar in Planet of the Apes, or Michael Corleone becoming the head of the family? And that act two gives you that opportunity to go, you know, very dark, and you know, it's it could be our Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
I know, that's a little bit much, I'm sorry. Empire Bites Back here?
Yeah. Okay. Right over there beside you on the aisle. Just there, just beside you.
My question is for Luke. Did you, in your research, have a chance to visit Bron Castle at all?
No, I didn't. I was doing 2 months of pickups for The Hobbit in New Zealand, and it was the Battle of the Five Armies we were shooting. So I left there and flew straight to Belfast. So there was no time for any castle visits or any of that stuff. I had to do all my stuff online or in books or from historical documents and stuff. But is that what he's talking about? Yeah. Okay. I just make sure I'm getting the right answer to your question. But no, I didn't. But I do plan to go. I mean, it'd be terrible if I never got to see where my character really came from and all that.
Well, we're actually going on holiday next week. You gotta join us.
Oh. How big is your suitcase? Business? Economy? Ooh. I'll think about it.
Next one. Yeah. Run over there, I think. Okay, I'm going to just shout then. Run up. While we're going over here, somebody just at the front. Yeah. We'll give you a mic.
Hi, really great movie. My question goes to Luke and Sarah. What was the most challenging and what was the most fun scene to shoot?
Well, I know emotionally the most challenging for me, which is probably more interesting than the physical stuff because everything was hard. But the emotional moment for me was what? I'm on about the fighting stuff. You dirty bunch. I was on about there's a very tragic scene in the film which we shot. It was almost the last scene I ever shot, even in pickups, was holding Sarah in my arms after she'd fallen from the tower. And it was a horrific day. It was a really sad moment. It's a terrible moment in Vlad's life, leaving, watching the person that he's fought for die in his arms, and then you see. But also in my head at the time, I was saying goodbye to Sarah, I was saying goodbye to the film, I was saying goodbye to my character, I was saying goodbye to the whole thing, and I was fucking exhausted. I could cry at the drop of a hat at that point. But it was an incredibly sad day, and yeah, I won't forget that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you.
You were lying there dead, did you have to do anything?
I fell a long, long way, and then landed
Prettiest
in your
corpse I've
arms
ever seen, by the way.
alive. No, I just remember that day being so emotional that I didn't sleep really at all the night before, just because I find sometimes when you're doing emotional scenes, I always work myself up so much, and my adrenaline's always really high, so I never sleep the night before, and then you go on set and you're crying and you're dying all day, and it's like breaking up with somebody all day long. And then you go home and it's really hard to turn that off. So then I stayed up all night that night, and I was just kind of like delirious and wired from it. So that was really, it was tiring.
And the best bits also included Sarah. The light in this film, which there isn't a huge amount of light moments because it's about this man suffering with this addiction and all that stuff, but it was the moments I had with my family. Again, that was what we anchored the belief in the film. It's about this love and he has with his family, and they were joyous moments in a very dark journey.
I think one of my favorite scenes to shoot was the bedroom scene where we're getting English ready for
yeah.
Okay. But because I remember Gary saying, I really want this to feel like just two average parents getting their kid ready for bed, and we want it to be chaotic and fun and light, and to have a contemporary energy. And that's the thing, is that we were playing people from a long, long time ago, but at the same time we want to make our characters seem accessible to you who are living today. And so we tried to find moments like that in the film to make it feel more real. And that was really fun.
Got one over here.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, shout.
Okay. Into the boat.
Shout. Oh, okay.
So therefore,
Sorry. Okay, so before I ask a question, these guys wanted me to have Luke say, "No one lives."
no one lives. I'm not a blood-covered character.
And I wanted to say first off, the scene with Vlad versus the Thousand, the looking through the sword, that was phenomenal. Just that scene right there just looked so amazing. But anyway, this question is for Luke, and I have to ask, what was more hard training for as far as Bard or Dracula?
It's this, and not by a small margin, by a very large margin. This was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I mean, I turned up 3-4 weeks before everybody else turned up, and every day I was training with the stunt guys and then with a personal trainer who was trying to stop me from eating steak and chips, and it was a huge physical sacrifice for me, training and all that stuff, and then we started shooting the film, and as you can see, I'm in a lot of the scenes, and I was in every single day, and when I finished work, my trainer would pick me up from the set, and then we'd go to the gym, which is the last thing you'd want to do after doing a fight sequence like the Vlad versus the Thousand, for example. And I'd go to the gym and then, go home, eat food, and if I could stay awake for an hour to allow it to digest, and then I'd go to sleep. And I did that for nearly 4 months. It was exhausting, but physically demanding. But I picked up that script and I saw that it was going to be. I was there longer.
You started training on your own.
Well, I was in New Zealand. I took my trainer to New Zealand, so. Universal paid for it, obviously. There was no way I was going to pay for that. Paying for pain? You crazy? No, but it was, so no, I think all in all, because of the demand of the character, there was a huge arc for my character physically, dealing with a man who was, I keep describing it as like an addiction. He drank that blood, and then he just has this urge to keep drinking, and he is fighting it. So he's trying to do cold turkey, and so I was trying to inhibit that character, and all that stuff was going on, and so it was a lot. It was full on. So definitely this job, without a doubt. Yeah.
I think we have to sort of finish up here, but I wanted to ask Gary what you're up to next.
I am going to Slovenia next week. Well, actually, we got our screens. Yeah, we get to that.
You said wedding.
Yeah, at the end of the month. But it's pretty packed.
Tiny bit more.
Yeah, it's first I gotta go and shoot this job. I've got like 3 commercials to shoot with Kate Upton over in Slovenia.
Before your wedding.
Before the wedding. It's all kind of like armour and lingerie and dragons and armies and all that
Armour
stuff.
and jump to lingerie. Right.
So we're prepping
Bringing
that.
any of this guy?
No, I'm bringing a lot of the crew though. A lot of the guys that shot on this, they all turned me down to ever work again together.
I'm busy selling this film. I can't do anything else.
The reason I asked is because I think you're also running a marathon.
I am, yeah. So when I finish in Slovenia, I come back and run the marathon. I've done that for the St. Francis Hospice. And then... If anybody does want to sponsor, you can go online to mycharity.ie/events/run4joe. I'm very grateful, thank you. And then 3 days later, I am marrying the lovely Ciara Cullen. We were doing the Great Hall scene where the Turks come marching in. My mum is in there, my sister's in there, my auntie Anne is in there, and then Ciara's family were in the background. They were all waiting there. Glenn had a ring in his pocket somewhere, but this was something we were planning. While we were shooting it, I was getting the guy who was dealing the rings and the diamonds to come
So
in.
the film is just a really elaborate, basically, proposal.
It was like John,
Very expensive, very elaborate proposal.
John Schwartzman, who's the DP. He shot all these Michael Bay films. So he had, one of them was Armageddon, and there's that scene in Armageddon where he has little crackers on the belly and Ben Affleck and this water. And I was like, the guy who can, shoot that scene in all seriousness and make it that romantic is the perfect guy to shoot my proposal. Now, the studio never let me shoot it. They didn't. I
Shoot everything else.
I would have wanted to do too many retakes. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get this once. And beautiful lighting. And we proposed, I proposed there in the day. So yeah, it's been a bit of a packed schedule the last year and a half.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like it's not going to stop for a while either. On your behalf, because I'm conscious about time, but I wanted to say a huge thank you to Diarmaid and Sarah and Luke and Gary for coming and sharing tonight's film.
Small thank yous that I forgot when we were at the beginning was I'd like to thank Shane Whelan, who is a friend of mine who was able to finance the dinner break, and if it wasn't for his belief we wouldn't be sitting here today. Same with Donald Hottie, one of my lecturers from college in Galway, and Jonathan Lochran, my friend, and of course, Kieran for all our love and support and not slapping me after that last few comments.
Sorry.